Okay. All right. Well, hello, everybody. So glad that you were able to join us today. So this is the first of a webinar series that we're very excited about. My name is Allison Foster. I'm the Executive Secretary for Delta Mega, the Public Health Honorary Society, and I'll be hosting today's presentations. So as you know, I hope, Delta Mega is the 100-year-old honorary society in public health. There are 132 chapters now at CEEP accredited schools and programs, and we have a combined membership of over 30,000 members. So since 2001, for over 20 years, we've been awarding faculty at schools and programs an award for innovative curricula. And we're very proud. This award's been going on for quite some time, and we always have a really great set of nominations. It was designed to stimulate the development of curricula that prepare graduates in meeting the challenges of contemporary public health. So what we started doing about 3 years ago was asking the winner and some of the nominees to present. And we do record these sessions so that folks can go back and look at them at a later time. So this recording is, this webinar is being recorded. So today we've got 3 presentations for you. So you're going to hear from a team from the University of Illinois, Chicago on community engaged program evaluation. And then you're going to hear from a team from Emory University, implementation practice and TA in community. And then finally, you'll hear from Claremont University, campaigning and community organizing for social change. So 3 really terrific topics, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy these presentations. So we've got a lot of ground to cover with 3 presentations today. So what we're going to ask is save your questions to the end. What we'd really love is if you go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll keep an eye on them throughout the presentation, and then we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So last thing I'm going to mention is that we also have 3 more presentations. So if you find this to be interesting, please join us on February 7th. And we also will have presentations on March 7th and April 7th. So 3 more webinars coming up. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let the folks from UIC get ready to present. So I'm especially happy to introduce Dr. Alisa Velonis, who was the faculty that submitted the winning curricula for this year, Community Engaged Program and Evaluation. So Alisa, if you don't mind introducing the team that's with you today, and I'll let you take it away.
So first of all, thank you so much. Sorry about that, all. I'm Alisa Velonis. I am an associate professor of public health at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And I just to put us all on the same page, I'm going to do a quick intro. I'm going to quickly introduce my team. My team member, Jenny Hebert-Byrne, is going to talk a little bit about the community engaged teaching program that we have at UIC. I'll give a brief overview of our course, and then what I think is most exciting is to have a little bit of a conversation with the community partners from Lawrence Hall who co-developed and co-taught this course with us. So very quickly, this was our core team. You'll hear from Dr. Jenny Hebert-Byrne, Aaron Brown, Sean McGinnis, and Brianna Hawley are all from Lawrence Hall. And I do have to say that we had a number of other people from Lawrence Hall, our community partner, join us at various points in the class. And we also had great support from the community engaged teaching staff at UIC. So we could not have done this without them. Jenny, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about community engaged teaching.
Thank you, Dr. Velonis. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you. So this course was really made possible because of a MacArthur Foundation grant that our school public health received in the middle of our COVID response. And the MacArthur Foundation, if you'll go to the next slide, Alisa, the MacArthur Foundation allowed us to really invest in our relationships with our community-based organization partners by aligning our core courses with our community partners' needs. So this was a way in which we were investing both in improving the retention and the knowledge and the skills of our students, but also build relationships with our community partners to advance post-COVID. So this funding allows us to build an infrastructure to support community engaged teaching, taking our community partners' expertise and putting it really in the front of the classroom and allowing our students to be in a co-learning environment with some of our partners. And I'll turn it back to Alisa.
So the course components, I'll tell you right now, I had wanted to teach a program evaluation class for several years. And the funding that we were able to get through the community engaged teaching program, and honestly also the relationships that Dr. Hebert Byrne had built up with so many community partners across the city, as well as the support of our division director, really like all aligned to create this wonderful opportunity to teach a program evaluation class in a way that allowed our students to have hands-on experience with doing some aspect of program evaluation, and then that really centered the participatory and community partnered approaches to this. So we started this by having several meetings with Sean and Aaron and others from Lawrence Hall, at which point we decided that we really wanted to focus on one particular program. I'll let Aaron talk about it, but it was a youth development recidivism prevention program that had multiple components to it. So it was a very complex program. And as part of sort of creating our terms of reference between UIC and Lawrence Hall, we outlined several places where we really thought it would be so wonderful to have our community partners in the classroom for at least these pieces of it. And we also knew we wanted to do at least one visit to the community, but we also did not want to burden our partners by having them have to spend too much time with us, knowing that they had full jobs as well. But it was awesome when I suggested to Sean, or I asked him, I said, you're welcome to participate as much as you wanted. And they decided that they wanted to try and come to class as often as possible. And that was the secret sauce, I feel like, that made so much of this work really well. So again, my goal was to both teach program evaluation and do program evaluation at the same time. And for any of you who've been part of an evaluation, you know that what you start out doing and what you actually do are two different things. And so students really learned, I think, that this was the case, because there were many points in the semester where we pivoted from doing what we thought we were going to be doing to doing something else. So this overview is just very sort of simple and generic and does not represent the complexity of what we all went through. But we started by talking about what is program evaluation and what does it look like to do it in a community engaged and partnered way. We then took the students on a deep dive into program theory and program logic. And we used a realist lens to do this by really getting deep into asking, what does each of these components has activities? By doing this activity, what changes? What does it lead to? Etc. So we then used all of this to create a program theory and a logic model, which we have a graphic representation of, and I'll show you a little snippet of what that looked like. But in order to do this, we really needed to understand the program. So our students asked questions of Sean and Aaron and the other members who'd come to class. We would talk through things until we really felt like we understood. Then we did a site visit to Lawrence Hall and had the opportunity to ask former program participants about their experiences with the program, what they learned from it, what they got out of it, and really, how did it work? How did they think it worked? After we put together our program theory and our logic model, which was conveniently actually taught by a member of the Lawrence Hall quality improvement staff who came in and did that section for the class and really taught them how to do a program logic model in a way that was useful for the organization. And I think that really helped a lot to not have Jenny and I talking about it in a very theoretical way. The students then working with our community partners developed evaluation questions, process and outcome ones, and then paired that with evaluation methods and data collection methods. And their ultimate final paper was to draft a program plan, or an evaluation plan. So I want to focus now on a really quick overview and let Sean and Brianna and Aaron pipe in about their experiences. So first of all, could you just give everybody a little bit of a background on Lawrence Hall so that they can kind of get like a sense of who you are, you know, the 30-second elevator pitch.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean McGinnis. I will be really brief on Lawrence Hall historically and then turn it over to Brianna to just talk a little bit more about who we are in the South Shore community of Chicago. But so Lawrence Hall is almost 160 years old. Historically in Chicago and throughout the state of Illinois, we've been known as a child welfare organization. So primarily working with kids in the foster care system at various different levels. So we have residential treatment, a therapeutic day school, foster care, transitional and independent living. We wrap that with a bunch of creative therapies and traditional therapies and other holistic services. But in 2015, with the new CEO, we wanted to have more of a focus of being preventative and how do we look at kids and families and prevent them from ever becoming involved with the child welfare system. And so we moved into the South Shore community, we built connections, we started doing work. And I'll turn it over to Brianna to kind of talk about what that work is and what we do and how that led to the program that we then evaluated.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everybody. So our program, as Sean shared a little bit, really started in 2015. That's when we took the shift from child welfare to the community-based organization, the community branch that Lawrence Hall has in South Shore, really focused on workforce development and then community wellness programming. So out of our location in South Shore, which is really the southeast side of Chicago, we focus on serving youth 11 to 26, as well as their families, and engaging in a variety of services. So anything from workforce development, which would be career readiness training, job placement, career exploration, to our community wellness programs that are really focused on the mentoring, the clinical services, community engagement, civic opportunities, intensive case management, just a variety of things where we wrap around services for the youth and their families. With this programming, and Aaron will share a little bit about that, but we service about 550 youth annually out of this location. And again, wrapping the youth that come from our community in a variety of services. So how this program came about, we'll hear from Aaron now.
So let's just talk a little bit about the program that was central to our evaluation. Aaron?
Aaron, it looks like you're talking, but we're not hearing you and you're not muted.
Sean, maybe you can, while Aaron gets this figured out, maybe one of you can talk just a moment or two about Jack.
Yeah, I would be happy to, and Aaron cut me off because I don't want to steal your thunder. But so yeah, Aaron Brown is a member of the Lawrence Hall team, but more importantly, he is a member of the South Shore community. So he's grown up there his whole life. He has had many of the same experiences of the young people that we serve. And so when he started working with us at Lawrence Hall in general, he wasn't working in the South Shore community, and we kind of looked and we were like, you have just this natural charisma, you have this experience, come work in South Shore and help us be prevention based, help us connect with kids in this community and give back to where you grew up, which was something he has been doing outside of Lawrence Hall for most of his life. And so he started doing this work and we kind of generated some conversation. And he shared a lot with me about ideas of, if we could get kids out of the community and get them the opportunity to let their guard down, that he felt that would have made a huge impact in his life.
You hear me now?
Aaron, you're with us? Okay, Aaron, go for it. Do your thing.
Oh, wow. Okay. I apologize for the delay. As Sean stated, we service the immediate South Shore area. And as Sean stated already as well, I grew up in the South Shore community. And growing up, a lot of the youth around me, a lot of my peers, including myself, we didn't have like real father figures. So we looked to the guys that we looked up to, and those were the people that was on the streets that was committing crimes, selling drugs and things of that nature. So I always yearned for a positive mentor, and I found one, but it was still in the female aspect. So I had a mentor who mother owned a nonprofit before, so I was following under her, but I still wanted that male aspect. Also, like, it's different like gang cliques that was going on in the community. So we couldn't even leave our 6-block radius. So a lot of the things that the Jack program does, it was centered around me and what I needed as a youth. And I have become the man that I needed when I was a youth. And it wasn't until I joined Lawrence Hall and learned about like coping skills and all of that, because Lawrence Hall does an in-depth training on basically everything that before you even start Lawrence Hall, you have to do a TCI, which is a 2-week-long process that I had to go through. And I realized in doing that training, like, if I would have knew this as a kid, my life would have turned out totally different. And but that added with me wanting more and wanting the community to have a better impact. I along with Sean and Brianna created the Jack program, and this is how we're here now. This is where we are.
So basically, this is a program model that's been informed by cognitive behavioral therapy and social and emotional learning, but it was really generated from Aaron and his experiences. And so a lot of the questions that you all were asking us to evaluate were things that were hard to evaluate. Things like, how do you replicate compassion and love? How do you collect data? So as I recall, your reasoning for wanting to work with us was like, the kinds of outcomes that you were collecting for funding really weren't necessarily aligned with what you wanted to know. But what was it really like to co-develop and co-teach this with us?
I think the best part on our end was really being referred to as co-instructors and co-teachers, and acknowledging that we all brought something, and then being able to discuss what we brought to the table and kind of navigate the conversations of real work experience to education, and having that connection kind of flow through all experiences.
So what is it that you feel like you were able to bring to our classroom setting?
As Brianna previously stated, the lived experience was huge for me, because I sat in a room full of phenomenal people who are extremely educated. And initially I could have felt intimidated, but then sitting in a room and getting having me there, it was like being able to be in the room with the youth the entire time, because I basically I lived it. So, and also run the groups and everything. So sitting in there, I was able to give them the lived experience. We had the opportunity to share stories of the youth and the challenges that they face, and also overview of how to utilize the data and how it impacted programs, because usually when I'm running program, it can sometimes get away from me. But when we was in the class, I was able to go over some things that we said that we were going to do and adjust what I was doing to bring those things in.
Oh, that's great. And I want to say that I feel like you all always brought your authentic selves to class, and that was really, really wonderful. So tell me a little bit about what you brought away from the experience.
I think one of the bigger things for most of us was just the opportunity to really think deeply about our program. I mean, you put a program model together, you pitch it to a funder, you get it funded, and then instantly you're off and running, and things start to change over time as you actually implement the program. And then you reflect back and go, oh, that's not everything we said we were going to do, or we're doing it differently. And this was an opportunity to really reflect on those moments, and think about what of the new things we were doing that had real impact. What were the things we weren't, that we need to go back to our roots and start to evaluate that whole process. But outside of this class, you never get that kind of time in the real world to really reflect on what you're doing like that.
And I would say for me, it was me just wanting to get back in the school setting. I didn't have the opportunity to take up this in college. So this made me want to go back to school, just being in a classroom setting with you all, honestly.
Well, we would love to have you. So Jenny, can you, as the CENT program, you all did an in-depth evaluation of our evaluation class and all of your courses. Can you tell us a little bit about what the students brought away from this?
Sure, thank you, Alisa. And I will note that we have several of our students on this call right now. Really, really nice to see you here. And this award, I think, goes out to everyone who participated in this co-learning opportunity. But we did our community engaged teaching initiative. Again, this MacArthur-funded work that sits in our Collaboratory for Health Justice at the School of Public Health did a multi-level evaluation where we measured the impact of the instructors, so Alisa, our community partners, our co-instructors, and the students. And I think we expected that this initiative would improve knowledge, skills, retention of students. And I think what we found was that it did more than that. That real world experience allowed the students to have a clearer sense of like their future selves as public health workers. So I think the intention is to build a stronger public health workforce. And I think we were able to do that by really giving students the opportunity to work on a real program to understand that Erin's genius with respect to this program, and also kind of back in what do we know from our evidence-based literature with respect to this kind of theory of change behind Erin's program. So our evaluation is still undergoing, but on this slide are a couple of statements from some students about just how this course impacted their experience.
And that is pretty much what we had to talk about today. I'm assuming that you want to move on to the next presenter.
Yes, thank you. That was absolutely wonderful. I know we're going to get lots of questions about your presentation, but we're going to go ahead and move on because we do have a full schedule today. And now we're going to hear from Emory University. Linelle Blais is going to share with you on her curricula.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so very much for having us here today. My name is Linelle Blais, and I am the Executive Director of Emory Centers for Public Health Training and Technical Assistance, and I'm joined by Dr. Lillian Madrigal, who's my Director of Implementation Science and Practice, and we're both on faculty at Rollins School of Public Health at Emory. We are excited to tell you about our experimental course on community implementation practice and TA in public health. Emory Centers, for some context, sort of drive the thinking around how we design this one credit course. So let me tell you a little bit about that. Emory Centers is a practice center. It's committed to advancing the practice of public health through capacity building. We do this in partnership with the public health workforce and communities nationwide. We provide high quality training, technical assistance, people and program development, evaluation, wherever it is that there's an identified need on those public health competencies. Our customers, our community partners are wide ranging. They cross all sorts of sectors, organizations, and communities at the state and local level, and sometimes internationally. Our services again span across all public health issues, risk factors, and professional competencies. And you can see we have listed here 4 of our centers that have emerged over time. DTAC is our Diabetes Training and Technical Assistance Center. Encore, organizational development and capacity, specifically with HIV, although not limited exclusively to that. We have a Program Evaluation and Quality Improvement Center, and TTAC, which our original center was originally tobacco, but now addresses issues across chronic disease and risk factors, and works primarily with the departments of public health. And all of these centers are nationwide. Our course, a quick overview of it. In the spring of 2023, I sought some funding. We sought some funding for Innovative Teaching Grant. And when we were awarded that, we launched this new course. And again, it was focused on implementation practice and technical assistance in community-based public health, the work that we do at Emory Centers. This was a really cool, unique opportunity to allow students to learn more about the technical assistance skills of public health professionals in the real world, in the community centers, those community practitioners and their partners. What is it like, really, to adopt and adapt an evidence-based and evidence-informed public health program and strategies with community? How do you work with community collaboratively to implement in practice? What are the challenges and opportunities in that space? So to do that, our students experience public health practice through various approaches that we're going to tell you about in a moment, highlighted community practice approaches and TA models that existed. And we did this through a health equity and social justice lens that carried through all the way out. And for the beginning of the class, there was that didactic piece, but the whole key here was that experiential learning. So we immerse students in real world day in the life of practitioner work across various types of nationwide organizations and systems that we do at Emory Centers for Public Health Practice. Here are the 4 buckets that we did. And Lillian in a moment will go through each of these in a little bit more detail. We caught the practitioner stories. We brought people in, presenters in, to talk about what it was like to work with community partners and community partners with our practitioners to accomplish various public health needs, services, and goals. And so they heard from around HIV, they heard about health equity projects and curriculum development. And that was very exciting and interesting. They then did informational interviews with some of these key practitioners to learn about what was their career pathway, how did they get involved in this kind of practice work, how did they end up doing what they do and making the impact that they are doing, why do they stay? We engage students in real world shadowing experiences. This was the exciting part that took this to the next level. They did a rotation of technical assistance practice experiences outside of the classroom, and they were able to identify the use and adaptation of all those academic models that you hear about and all those approaches. What is it really like? What is the actual implementation like when you're working in community with practitioners? And then we ended the course with a pitch project, think tank mode, challenging the use a persuasive style of communication to address a problem that practitioners might have in working with community and community working with practitioners. So that's a snapshot. Dr. Madrigal is going to tell you a little bit more about the nitty-gritty around these course components.
All right, yes. So as we said, this is a seminar style class. So the majority of the course is made up of these, guest speakers or panels, practitioner stories on a variety of topics. So in the first offering of this course, we had speakers come in, talk about their curriculum development and instructional design, policy planning and evaluation, collaborative community planning and mobilization, the public health learning agenda, which is a particular framework developed by some of our colleagues here at Emory, and then budgeting and marketing for public health programs. And this year, we're also adding some additional speakers around outside of our Emory Center's work, some folks from the federal government at HHS and CDC to talk about how they engage community, some of our colleagues at Emory that do a lot of translating research into public policy, and we're also going to be engaging more community partners onto our panels. As Linelle alluded to, we also have our students have those interviews with public health practitioners or professionals or community practitioners to learn more about those career pathways and what does their work actually look like? You know, what happened to them after they got their MPH, or how did they find themselves in this work? So these are, you know, we ask our students to come up with 5, you know, powerful questions, those deep questions to kind of get at those pathways and to learn more about what it looks like to do this work every day. And the special part of our class, those shadowing or rotation experiences, these are opportunities for our students to actually be in the room or the virtual room to learn how our staff and those outside do this work. So some of the examples of shadowing experiences we had last year were folks attending some community of practice calls, students assisting or sitting in on grant review processes. We have one of our centers that provides like sort of mini grants to communities. So they were reviewing and making decisions about how that money gets distributed, sitting in on the development as well as the delivery of webinars to our different clients. Sitting in on evaluation consultations and hearing kind of how we work with folks to develop an evaluation, curriculum development meetings, sitting in on community coalition meetings, strategic planning sessions, and all sorts of other opportunities that we gather from everyone that we work with and some outside of our center to find these really cool opportunities for our students. And then the final pitch project, this is that Shark Tank style project. We asked students to think about practice innovation that strengthens community capacity to implement public health practice. We really want them to think, you know, with that idea, the inclusion, diversity, equity, and anti-racism thinking in their design. Last year, some of the presentations were around, you know, developing databases for communities to search for grants or using AI to translate scientific findings into plain language. And after we hear about some of these ideas, we talk about, you know, how realistic was that solution? What might be some of the challenges? How could you make that actually happen? So it was a really fun way to kind of see what our students could come up with after this whole semester together. We had excellent feedback from our students. We are delivering the course again this semester. We just had our first class this week. And our students felt they learned a lot. They really were excited to have something where they could look at how public health gets done and kind of take their kind of regular coursework about theory and all sorts of frameworks and kind of see how it's implemented. So yeah, and we are having a great semester so far. Thank you, everyone.
All right, well, that again was terrific. So thank you so much for that presentation. All right, so now we are going to move on to Claremont University. Bree Hemingway is going to share her curricular campaigning and community organizing for social change with you.
Hi, everybody. The other presenters were awesome. I'm learning so much from all of you, and I'm just really glad to be here. So thanks for putting this event on and having us. I am really excited to share with you about campaigning and community organizing for social change, a class we taught. We've taught a few times at Claremont Graduate University. I'm presenting today with Maggie Hawkins. She was the TA for the course, but I will tell you she is much more than a TA for the course. She was really a thought partner. She has years of experience in community organizing and brought a lot of that into this class, and as we've revised this and taught it. So I'm excited that she is here as well. I wanted to briefly share the DEI statement for the School of Community and Global Health. This was really important for both Maggie and I to bring into our classroom. We recognize that the diversity of our students and the community partners that we work with add so much to the coursework and to our practice, and really fuel excellence within public health research and practice. I'd also like to acknowledge that Claremont Graduate University and the School of Community and Global Health sit on the ancestral territories of the Gabrielino Tongo Native Americans of California, and they are the traditional caretakers of these lands. The community organizing class that we taught in, we've taught it 2 semesters now, and we've continued to revise it. And most recently, we switched it from a public health specific course to a transdisciplinary course, meaning that students from other disciplines were invited to participate in the course. You'll see the learning objectives are still focused on public health, but also have broader implications to other social change and other areas of study. We also mapped everything to the CEF competencies, as it is still a required class for our public health students. So you can see a little bit more there. So just a brief overview before we get into the content of the course. This is a little bit of an overview of what community organizing is. And recently, public health scholarship has increasingly been recognizing how important community organizing is as a vehicle for unleashing collective power necessary to kind of change some of these large health inequities that we're seeing at the core of the health disparities of the United States. So we thought it was very important to incorporate into the public health curriculum. There's a number of unique components of the course. It was incredibly dynamic. As Maggie and I both have backgrounds in community organizing and in practice, and we thought that it was just so important for students to get exposure, hands-on exposure to public health practice in the community. So similar to the other presenters, our course tried very hard to not only bring community partners into the classroom, but also get students out into the community, applying what they're learning kind of beyond just the theoretical frameworks. So we have a few unique components that we'll talk through kind of how we did that. As I mentioned, we opened it up this fall to transdisciplinary courses, meaning graduate students across Claremont Graduate University from various disciplines. So beyond public health, were invited to take the course. So we had students from education, cultural studies, humanities, arts, some students studying medicine. And each student was coming into the course with passions and various ideas and curiosities about social issues that they were interested in understanding and helping address. And they were things like poverty, climate change, systemic racism, education, homelessness, problems that definitely cross-cut with public health, but also expand our understanding of disciplines and cross boundaries and break traditional academic silos. We sometimes talk about these as being wicked problems or very big, challenging social problems to solve. And part of the transdisciplinary perspective, beyond just having students across disciplines and bringing in voices of different students and different educational backgrounds, transdisciplinary perspective also stretches beyond just applying methods or solutions from one field. So in transdisciplinary perspective means that as a problem gets trickier, as the problems get wickeder, we want to look beyond the silos that we might create in our disciplines and apply solutions and perspectives in understanding and solving those problems. And that was that's how kind of approaches we tried to take as we formed this class. Maggie's gonna jump in and give you some insights into some of the specific components of the course. So I'll turn it over to her.
Yes, thank you, Bree, so much. And yes, just as other presenters have talked about, we felt that hands-on in the community experience, particularly with a topic like community organizing, was critical. So some of the ways that we employed that for students is, first of all, a service learning component. And the service learning had 2 different components to it. One is students spent time, 10 hours actually. We were thinking that 10 hours would not be a lot of time, but actually it gave students a really great beginning initial experience with an organization. So they spent hours with a community organization And then the second category was community meetings, particularly right now in public health. We've noticed that the public sphere has really affected the health of communities and affected the public dialogue. And so we wanted students, if they weren't already exposed to, which many weren't, to experience important community meetings. So they were required to go to one city council and at least one school board meeting. Because the course was taught online, they had the option to do that online or in person. They could choose anywhere in the United States that they wanted to engage with, and based on the topics that they were interested in. I wanted to say a little bit about the development of the partnerships for the service learning. We spent the summer really looking at our existing partnerships and places where it would be mutually beneficial for the site as well as students, and where we knew that people had a good infrastructure and mentorship ability to work with students. So we had all kinds of organizations, nonprofits of different sizes, different focus, many of whom we had 7 that we worked with, federally qualified health center, and even a city government healthy communities program. Next slide, please. The other unique component that Bree had mentioned was working with our community guest speakers. So as some of the other courses have talked about today, we wanted to bring people into the classroom that were actually doing community organizing in different levels. So our speakers represented a lot of different fields and interests and insights. I did want to say also, to respect not only our partners and our guest speakers' time, we did offer a modest honorarium that came to us through the transdisciplinary program, which was really helpful as well. So the speakers could offer first-hand experiences, case studies, practical examples that enrich the learning theories that students have access to. We wanted to bridge the gap between academia and the realities of community work. One of the areas that we consciously brought into the classroom was the arts, and how the arts could be used in community organizing. We had a specific assignment that addressed that I'll talk about in a minute. So that assignment was called Show and Tell. And with the Show and Tell assignment, we acknowledge that the arts have had a huge impact on social movements and community organizing. They've long been used as a tool to evoke emotions, provoke critical thinking, and mobilize communities towards a common cause. So the arts can be used for social movements as ability to storytell, to capture the essence of movements, to gauge people's emotional level. We found this assignment also allowed the students to truly bring themselves and their understanding of art as a tool of organizing into the classroom. And this is a collage of some of the images and topics that they brought in. Again, everything from photojournalism to social media to music, of course, performance art, visual art. All of those were brought into the classroom. And by and large, this was the most popular activity that the students had, that they really had a lot of fun with. And it was also evoked a lot of emotion. There were very personal pieces as well. Lastly, we had our mock advocacy visit, and this had a couple different levels to it. On one level, we brought in someone who does advocacy full-time for federally qualified health centers. And she did a lot of work with them on the actual tools they would need to do advocacy. We gave the students a scenario that was based, and they had rules within that scenario. They did this in groups. And the topic was gun violence and gun safety policy. They had a few weeks to work together. We had our expert come in and talk with them more about preparing for advocacy visits. And then we also had one of our local assembly members came in and also talked with them about, as from a legislator's perspective, how, what are important points in advocacy. The students put together a presentation as well as a one-piece informational handout that normally would be left after an advocacy visit, and they presented in the class. And we also had 2 folks who professionally have done advocacy for a very long time come in and give them feedback, suggestions, and advice. And the students found that incredibly valuable. I'll turn this back to Bree now.
Awesome. So as you can see, there was a lot of unique components to this course, and students seem to get a lot out of it. I pulled some quotes here, some big takeaways. People were skeptical, or other colleagues were skeptical at the service learning and the 10 hours and how much students would get out of it. But students reported that it was a profound experience for them. And a number of students elected to continue the projects they were working on from the service learning assignment and actually continue either as volunteers or interns. As Maggie mentioned, the show and tell assignment with the art was incredibly popular. You definitely saw students get to bring themselves into the course that way. Lots of great feedback about that. And as Maggie said, just evoked a lot of emotion. People had real personal connections to some of the art pieces they got to bring in. Last, I'd like to just touch on a few lessons learned from this. There, again, some skepticism about this course initially, but we found that it has been really sustainable. The integration of the service learning assignments of the sites that we've worked with all have continued to stay on and continue to be service learning assignments for our students in the future. We've also had students from the class, alumni from the class, offer to be sites for service learning. So it does seem to have some mutual benefit for both the students and the sites. I want to continue to incorporate the arts and explore this. Maggie and I are both attending a research conference more on art and public health, and seeing how we can continue to expand on this, just because students' feedback was so positive. And then we really have enjoyed expanding this from traditionally a public health course to a transdisciplinary course, and fostering dialogue across disciplines. We think it really enriched the course, that the course dialogue and just the collaborations that we had. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, wonderful. Oh my goodness. Those were fantastic presentations. So now we're going to take some questions. We've always got quite a few, so let's see how many we can go through. What I'm thinking is maybe Alisa, Linelle, and Bree, if you could keep your cameras on, and I'm going to kind of throw the questions at you. If I can tell that they're for your program particularly. So one question I have is, how translatable are your programs for remote learning? We could just do a super quick round robin.
Ours were done, my class was all online.
Great.
This is Linelle. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, wow, I think that it would be possible to do some of this online, as long as there was an understanding that that the whole evaluation process would have to be designed to be online, and then having students chiming in might be more possible. But I feel like it was having our people in the same room and being able to really interact in person was so beneficial.
I'll say one note on the being online. Ours was online, and initially with building community, it can be difficult to do that online, but it is a skill set people are being asked more and more in this virtual age. So we thought it was a fun tool to teach the students as well. And the other benefit was, as we brought in partners and community, we could expand where they were. They didn't have, I mean, obviously Claremont's located in Southern California. We have a ton of partners locally, but we also got to bring in experts that are working outside of the country, even, to talk about working across cultures. And so that was a benefit of it being on Zoom. They could Zoom in from wherever they were.
And this is Linelle. Yes, and components of it where presenters could not be in person, they certainly could call in, so it was blended in that regard. But wow, the richness in the conversation with a small group really tackling and challenging each other in person was fabulous. That dynamic was wonderful. So while it was sort of mixed with the speakers, it was just, I liked the energy of the in-person for this small group where trust and issues and challenges had to be discussed.
Okay, hopefully we'll get a couple more questions in. The next one is, tell me about revisions that you have planned in the future for your courses. I'll let whoever's ready to answer go first.
Well, Lillian can answer this too. We since we're doing it again, one of the requests, because it was so highly evaluated, was other faculty who had practice-related centers or initiatives want to be more involved in it. The students are definitely asking earlier on in their 2 or 3 year program to have more practice close, and that you heard that as a theme across. They're really ready to roll up their sleeves, and if they're getting epi and biostats and assessment stuff, they want to see it connect. So we have a lot of energy. There's also discussions of creating more of a fellowship program, a pipeline program, where these rotations could happen that feed into future workforce. And yes, we're bringing in more community partners into the conversation and broadening the scope and scale of areas that are covered in practice that they might not be aware of.
Similar with our course, we're looking to expand the community partners we're working with. Also kind of build sustainability with these partnerships. Like I mentioned, a lot of them are really happy to continue on and continue working with us, which is great. And so kind of creating a buildable, sustainable project that we can kind of plug students in with this project and continue and kind of have a bigger impact with the service learning. Although it's a small amount of hours for those students over a few semesters, they could really do some big projects together. So kind of thinking down the line with our partners of how our students can be contributing to their work.
I think we would love to do this class again. We really were treating it as a pilot initiative because it did take so much time and investment, not just from us, but from our partners. And in many ways, the way that we were able to make it work was thanks to the MacArthur Foundation support of it. I mean, having that extra level of support was really important. But that said, I think it would be wonderful to try it again, either by being able to take the next group of students and have them begin to implement the evaluation that we planned, so kind of just continuing this process. Or if that doesn't work out, doing it with a different organization, but starting possibly at about the same place where we begin to sort of introduce evaluation by thinking about how we plan it.
Okay, well, wonderful. Well, we're at time. So we're going to end here. Thanks to all of you for presenting. Congratulations to the presenters. Thank you to all of you who participated in this session. We will have 3 more. You can check out our webpage at deltamega.org for the schedule for the 3 other webinars. And we are recording this session, so we'll post in about a week. And if any of you want to get in touch with the presenters, just email info@deltamega.org and we can put you in touch with them if you want to continue the conversation. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.